Scripture portions of the day. Day 333.
Matthew 15, OANT. And the Pharisees and the scribes, who were from Jerusalem, came unto Yeshua, and they were saying, Why do your disciples violate the tradition of the elders? They do not wash their hands whenever they eat bread. Yeshua answered them and said to them, Why do you also violate the commandments of Elohim by the sake of traditions? For Elohim has said, Honor your mother and father, and whosoever reviles his father and his mother shall surely die. Now you are saying, Everyone who will say to father and mother, My offering is anything by which you made a profit from me, should honor neither his father nor his mother. And you nullify the word of Elohim because of your traditions. Phonies! Isaiah prophesied well against you and said, This people is honoring me with their lips, but their heart is very far from me, and they revere me with vain, while they teach the doctrines of the commandments of man. And he called the crowds and said to them, Hear and understand. It is not the thing that enters the mouth that defiles the man, but the thing that proceeds from the mouth that defiles the man. And his disciples approached and were saying to him, Do you know that the Pharisees who heard this saying were indignant? But he answered and said to them, Every plant that my Father who is in heaven has not planted will be uprooted. Let them alone. They are blind guides of the blind. But if a blind man leads a blind man, both will fall into a pit. Simeon Kepha answered and said to him, My Lord, explain to us this parable. But he said to them, Are you still also not understanding? Do you not know that anything that enters the mouth goes to the belly and is cast out from there in excretion? Anything that proceeds from the mouth proceeds from the heart, and defiles the man. For the heart proceeds evil thoughts, adulteries, murders, fornications, thefts, lying, testimonies, blasphemies. These things are those that defile a man. But if a man will not eat after washing his hands, he is not defiled. But Yeshua went out from there, and he came to the borders of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, the Canaanitess woman from those borders came forth, crying out, and she said, Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is badly driven by a demon. But he did not give her an answer, and his disciples came and begged him. And they were saying, Send her away, for she is crying after us. But he answered and said to them, I am not sent except for the sheep that have strayed from the house of Israel. But she came and worshipped him and said, My Lord, help me. He said to her, It is not good to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. But she said, Yes, my Lord. Even the dogs eat from the crumbs that fall from their master's table, and they live. But then Yeshua said to her, O woman, great is your faith. It will be done for you as you will. And her daughter was healed from that moment. And Yeshua departed from there, and he came to the seaside of Galilee, and he went up the mountain and sat down there. Many crowds came to him, who had lame and blind, dumb, crippled, and many others, and they laid them at the feet of Yeshua, and he healed them. So the crowds would be amazed, who saw those who had been mute speaking, and those who had been crippled who were healed, and those who had been lame walking, and those who had been blind were seeing, and they glorified Elohim of Israel. When Yeshua called his disciples and said to them, I am moved with pity for this multitude. They have remained with me these 3 days, and they have nothing to eat, and I am not willing to send them away fasting, lest they should faint on the road. His disciples were saying to him, Where is bread for us in the wilderness that will satisfy this whole crowd? Yeshua said to them, How many loaves do you have? And they said to him, 7, and a few small fish. And he ordered the crowd to sit for a meal on the ground. And he took up those 7 loaves and the fish, and he gave praise. And he broke, and he gave to his disciples, and his disciples gave to the crowd. And all them ate and were satisfied, and they took up the remnants of fragments filled 7 baskets. But they who ate had been 4,000 men, apart from women and children. And when he sent the crowds away, he went up into the ship and came to the border of Magdo. Deuteronomy 29, Septuagint. And these are the words of the covenant which Jehovah commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab. besides the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. And Moses called all the sons of Israel and said to them, You have seen all these that Jehovah did in the land of Egypt before you, to Pharaoh and his servants and all his land. The great temptations which thine eyes have seen, the signs, and those great wonders. Yet Jehovah Elohim has not given you a heart to know, and eyes to see, and ears to hear until this day. And he led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your garments will not grow old, and your sandals will not be worn off your feet. You did not eat bread, you did not drink wine, nor strong drink, that ye might know that I am Jehovah your Elohim. And you came as far as this place, and there came forth Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, to meet us in war. And we smote them, and took their land. And I gave it as an inheritance to Reuben and Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. And ye shall take heed to do all the words of this covenant, that ye may understand all the things you shall do. You all stand today before Jehovah thy Elohim, the heads of your tribes, and your elders and judges, and your officers, every man of Israel, your wives, your children, and the stranger that is in the midst of your camp, from your hewer of woods even to the drawer of water, that thou shouldest enter into the covenant of Jehovah thy Elohim, and into his oaths, as many as Jehovah thy Elohim appoints to thee this day, that he may appoint thee to himself for a people, and they might be thy Elohim, as he said to thee, and as he sware to thy fathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And I do not appoint to you alone this covenant and this oath, but to those also who are here with you today before Jehovah your Elohim, and to those who are not here with you today. For you know how we dwell in the land of Egypt, how we come through the midst of the nations through whom ye came, and ye beheld their abominations and their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which are among them. Lest there be among you a man, or woman, or family, tribe, whose heart has turned aside from Jehovah thy Elohim, having gone to serve the gods of these nations, lest there be a root of spring up to you with gall and bitterness. And it shall be, if one shall hear the words of this curse, and shall flatter himself in his heart, saying, Let good happen to me, for I will walk in the air of my heart, lest the sinner destroy the guiltless with him. Elohim shall by no means be willing to pardon him. But then the wrath of Elohim, Jehovah, and his jealousy shall flame out against the man, and all the curses of that covenant shall attach themselves to him, which are written in this book, and Jehovah shall blot out his name from under heaven. And Jehovah shall separate that man from evil of all the children of Israel, according to all the curses of the covenant that are written in this book of the law. And another generation shall say, Even your sons shall rise up after you, and the stranger who shall come from the land afar off shall see the plagues of the land, and their diseases, which Jehovah has sent upon it. Brimstone, burning salt, the whole land shall not be sown, neither shall any green thing spring, nor rise upon it. As Sodom and Gomorrah were overthrown, Adam and Zeboim, which Jehovah overthrew in his wrath and anger. And all the nations shall say, Why has Jehovah done this to this land? And what is this great fierceness of anger? And men shall say, Because they forsook the covenant of Jehovah Elohim of their fathers, and things which he appointed to their fathers, which he brought them out of the land of Egypt. And he went and served other gods, and they knew not, neither did he assign them to them. And Jehovah was exceedingly angry in the land, to bring upon it according to all the curses which are written in the book of the law. And Jehovah removed them from their land in anger and wrath and very great indignation, cast them out in another land at the present. And the secret things that belong to Jehovah, our Elohim, but the things that are revealed belong to us and our children forever, to do all the words of this law. Esther 1. Septuagint. And it came to pass after these things in the days of Artaxerxes. This Artaxerxes ruled over 127 provinces from India. And in those days, when King Artaxerxes was on the throne in the city of Susa. In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast to his friends and other nations, and to the nobles of the Persians and Medes, and the chief of the satraps. And after this, after he had sown to them the wealth of his kingdom, and the abundant glory of his wealth during the 180 days, when I say the days of the marriage feast were complete, the king made a banquet to the nations who were present in the 60 days, in the court of the king's house. It was adorned with hangings of fine linen, and flax on cords, and fine linen, and purple fastened to golden and silver studs, on pillars of Parian marble and stone, and were golden and silver couches, on the pavement of emerald stone, and on the pearl and Parian stone, and open-worked coverings variously flowered, having roses worked round about, gold and silver cups, and a small cup of carbuncle, set out in the value of 30,000 talents, abundant and sweet wine, which the king himself drank. And this banquet was not according to the appointed law, but also the king would have it, and he charged the stewards to perform his will and that of the company. Also, Aston, the queen, made a banquet for the women in the palace where the king Artaxerxes dwelt. Now on the 7th day of the king, being merry, told Amon, and Bazan, and Thurha, and Barazi, and Zath-Olathah, and Abatazah, and Tharababa, and 7 chamberlains, servants of King Artaxerxes, to bring in the queen to him, to enthrone her, and crown her with a diadem, and to show her in the palace princess, and her beauty to the nations, for she was beautiful. But Queen Astin hearkened not unto him to come with the chamberlains, so the king was grieved and angered. And he said to his friends, Thus hath Astin spoken. Pronounce, therefore, upon this case law and judgment. And so Arcasia, and Sarasthesia, and Malasir, and the princes of Persians and Medes who were near the king, who sat chief in rank by the king, drew near to him. And he reported to him, according to the law, how it was proper to do to Queen Astin, because she had not done the thing commanded of the king by the chamberlains. And Muchasius said to the king and to the princes, Queen Astin has not wronged the king only, but also the king's rulers and princes, for he has told them the words of the queen, and how she disobeyed the king, as then, said he, she refused to obey King Artaxerxes. So this day shall be the other ladies of the chief of the Persians and the Medes, having heard that what she had said to the king, dare in the same way to dishonor their husbands. It then seems good to the king, let him make a royal decree, and let it be written according to the laws of the Medes and the Persians, and let him not alter it, and let not the queen come in to him any more, and let the king give her royalty to a woman better than she. And let the law of the king which he shall have made be widely proclaimed in his kingdom, and so shall all the women give honor to their husbands, from the poor even to the rich. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did as Muchasius had said, and sent into all his kingdom through the several provinces, according to their language, in order that man may be feared in their own houses. Esther 2, Septuagint. And after this the king angered was pacified, and he no more mentioned Astin, bearing in mind that she had said, and how he had condemned her. Then the servants of the king said, Let there be sought for the king chaste and beautiful young virgins, and let the king appoint local governors in all the provinces of his kingdom, and let them select fair and chaste young damsels, and bring them to the city of Susa, into the women's apartment, and let them consign to the king's chamberlain, and the keeper of the women, and let things be purification, and other attendants be given to them. And let the women who shall please the king be queen instead of Astin, And this thing pleased the king, so he did. So now there was a Jew in the city Susa, and his name was Mordecai, and the son of Jarius, the son of Semamias, the son of Sisaias, and the tribe of Benjamin, who had been brought a prisoner of Jerusalem, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried into captivity. And he had a foster child, daughter of Aminadab, his father's brother, and her name was Esther. And when her parents were dead, he brought her up for a wife for himself, and the damsel was beautiful. And because the king's ordinance was published, many damsels were gathered to the city Susa under the hand of Gai. And Esther was brought to Gai, and to the keeper of the women. And the damsel pleased him, and she found favor in his sight, and he was hastened to give her the things of purification for her portion, and the 7 maidens appointed her out of the palace. And he treated her and her maidens well in the woman's apartment. But Esther discovered not her family, nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her not to tell. But Mordecai used to walk every day by the women's court to see what would become of Esther. Now this was the time of the virgin to go into the king, and when she was fulfilled 12 months, for so are the days of purification fulfilled, 6 months, while they are anointing themselves with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with spices and women's purifications. And then the damsel goes into the king, and the officer whomsoever he shall give the command will bring her to come in, and with him from the women's apartment to the king's chamber. She entered into the evening, and in the morning she departed to the second women's apartment, where Gaia, the king's chamberlain, is the keeper of the women, and she goes not in to the king's again, unless she should be called by name. And when the time was fulfilled for Esther, the daughter of Aminadab, the brother of Mordecai's father, to go into the king, she neglected nothing, which was the chamberlain, the woman's keeper, commanded. For Esther found grace in the sight of all that looked upon her. So Esther went in to the king Artaxerxes in the 12th month, which is Adar, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther, and she found favor beyond all the other virgins, and he put on her the queen's crown. And the king made a banquet for all his friends and great men of 7 days, and he highly celebrated the marriage of Esther, and he made a release to those who were under his dominion. But Mordecai served in the palace. Now Esther had not discovered her kindred, for Mordecai commanded her to fear Elohim, to perform his commands, as when she was with him, and Esther charged not her own manner of life. And 2 chamberlains of the king, the chief of the bodyguard, were grieved because Mordecai was promoted, and they sought to kill King Artaxerxes. And the matter was discovered by Mordecai, and he made it known to Esther, and she declared to the king the matter of the conspiracy. And the king examined the 2 chamberlains and hanged them, and the king gave orders to make note, for a memorial in the royal records, of the good offices of Mordecai as a commendation.
Proverbs 22:1. A fair name is better than much wealth, and good favor is above silver and gold. 2. The rich and the poor meet together, but Jehovah made them both. 3. An intelligent man seeing a bad man severely punished is himself instructed, but fools pass by and are punished. 4. The fear of Jehovah is the offspring of wisdom, and wealth, and glory, and life. 5. Thistles and snares are in perverse ways, but he that keeps his soul will refrain from them. 7. The rich will rule over the poor, and servants will lend to their own masters. 8. He that sows wickedness shall reap troubles, and shall fully receive the punishment of his deeds. Elohim loves a cheerful and liberal man, but a man shall fully prove the folly of his works. 9. He that has pity on the poor shall himself be maintained, for he has given of his own bread to the poor. He that gives liberally secures victory and honor, but he takes away the life of them that possess them. 10. Cast out a pestilent person from the council, and strife shall go out with him, for when he sits in the council he dishonors all. 11. Jehovah loves holy hearts, and all blameless persons are acceptable with him. A king rules with his lips. 12. But the eyes of Yehovah preserve discretion, but the transgressor despises wise words. 13. The sluggard makes excuses and says there is a lion in the ways and murderers in the streets. 14. The mouth of a transgressor is a deep pit, and he that is hated of Yehovah shall fall into it. Evil ways are before a man, and he does not like to turn away from them, but it is needful to turn aside from a perverse and bad way. 15. Folly is attached to the heart of a child, but the rod and instruction are then far from him. 16. He that oppresses the poor increases his own substance, yet gives to the rich so as to make it less. 17. Incline thine ear to the words of wise men. Hear also my word, and apply thine heart. 18. That thou mayest know that they are good. And if thou lay them to heart, they shall also gladden thee on thy lips. 19. That thy hope may be in Yehovah, and he may make thy way known to thee. 20. And do thou too repeatedly record them for thyself on the table of thine heart, for counsel and knowledge. 21. I therefore teach thee truth, and knowledge good to hear, that thou mayst answer words of truth to them that question thee. 22. Do no violence to the poor, for he is needy. Neither dishonor the helpless man in the gates. 23. For Yehovah will plead his cause, and thou shalt deliver thy soul in safety. 24. Be not companion to a furious man, neither lodge with a passionate man. 25. Lest thou learn of his ways, and get snares to thy soul. 26. Become not surety from respect of a man's person. 27. For if those have not whence to give compensation, they will take the bed that is under thee. 28. Remove not the old landmarks, which thy fathers placed. 29. It is fit that an observant man and one diligent in his business should attend on kings, and not attend on slothful men.